Let's do it. Thanks, Pat. Good afternoon. It is now, let's see here, 5:03, and I'll call the Master Plan Committee meeting of Wednesday, September 7th, 2025 to order. First order of business is a roll call attendance. Bob
and Eric.
Sue Perkins.
Rob Leonardi.
Ross Smith.
Dan Mascroft.
Bob Moran.
Margaret Bacon.
John Charbonneau.
Rich Preston. All righty, have a quorum. We do have some excused absences.
Is this a joint meeting?
It's the anniversary of
No.
Tito.
No. Okay, so we don't have a quorum, right?
I don't know, do we? Do we, Bob?
Gordon's not.
Seven. We have a quorum.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we have a
Gordon.
quorum, Bob.
And that's not
Of us,
including
but
Sue.
not a quorum of Sue,
No,
because
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah,
we
You have
just
quorum.
made it.
Yep.
But it's not a joint meeting.
it is not.
No,
I
it's
don't
not a
think so.
joint meeting. No, they don't have a quorum of the Open Space Committee anyway, so it couldn't be a joint meeting.
Okay.
So she's just
Right.
appearing on behalf.
All right, that was my
How many are on the Open Space Committee?
7,
So,
Yeah.
well, you
No,
need
wait.
4.
5, 6. 6.
Okay, you need 4.
But one's an alternate.
Okay. Thanks, Sue. So, we have some excused absences. We have Mike Zwicker, Gordon, Rebecca, Linda, and Meg will not be joining us. They're all excused. Let's see here. If you could take a look at the minutes of August 20th, let us know what you think.
Stuff to pass around. It's just additional recommendations. Did we lose you last time when we got bombed on the Zoom?
Yeah, no, and then I was out of
You, like-
reception, so
yeah.
I was effectively
I
absent.
thought we had
Yeah.
lost you.
motion to accept the minutes?
I do. So I try to read the room, Bob. I'm looking for eyes. When the eyes come up, I know we're good.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay.
August 20th.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Bob, second by Bob. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, those abstaining, the ayes have it.
Abstain.
2 abstentions, thank you.
I do have one comment, though. There's difficulty accessing the videos on our town website. We have in that room the guy that will explain how to access them in 2 words or less. Do you want him to speak on how to access the videos?
Do you have a 2-minute tutorial on accessing the videos, Pat?
The meeting videos,
Yeah.
Any video on any town department.
each department should have their own playlist on their, I'm not allowed to be, on their, the bottom of their webpage on the town website. So, building a facility should have one at the bottom. It should be a list. The cable page also has a general list of everything we upload to YouTube and links to YouTube there. So everything is available on the town website. If you just go to the cable page, it's probably the easiest. It has everything there.
And on YouTube, I think, isn't it Douglas TV? Is that what it's under?
That was taken, it was Douglas Cable Access.
Okay.
So it's, youtube.com/Douglas Cable Access, I think is what it is.
Okay.
Actually, you can just go to YouTube and search whether it's the planning board for a certain date, and you can just pull it up.
Right.
You just look up, you can type in Douglas Cable, and that will bring you to the YouTube channel that you can, they have every video listed also in the order of whichever came most recently,
The date. It's
chronological.
listed by date.
Yeah, listed by date.
There's also playlists for each committee. If you're looking for something specific, there'll be a playlist for planning board, master plan. Then they have all the videos, latest one up top.
It also has a view count, so we can get ratings. And we actually do pretty good.
We're monetizing. I've seen ads on them.
There's different ways to get to a meeting.
All right. Okay, thank you, Pat. Bob. Let's see what else we have here. Have anything for us, Bob, regarding quarterly reporting or monthly
No,
payment?
just waiting for the next monthly reporting for this month, which will be in October, and that triggers the quarterly report. Because I'm just holding on to 2 right now. I need the 3rd piece.
Right. Thank you.
It's just plug-in right now. It's set up to go in hours.
So we're paying our bills?
Yeah, we actually, last Friday, we received the check for July. August was submitted, that's pending. We'll probably get that first weekend. It's been 30 days we've been getting checks consistently.
Every 3 months we're making the state happy?
Yep,
Good. All right.
well, every month. Every month. Quarterly reporting is not, quarterly reporting is reimbursement. No, I'm sorry, the monthly reporting is reimbursement.
Right.
Quarterly reporting is only reporting.
Yeah. Okay. And that keeps them happy.
Oh, yes.
Good. That's what we like to hear. They pay the bills,
They pay the bills.
mostly.
Down from 90 days.
Thank you, Bob.
Here's Carol.
Welcome. Enter, rejoice, and commend.
Carol, if you would.
All right. So, I'd like to move on. John Chapino was good enough to put together some traffic data for us, so he'd like to share that with us.
Let me let Carol get settled.
Thanks.
So at the last meeting, we discussed transportation and traffic counts. So went on to CMRPC's website and also Mass DOT and consolidated it into a spreadsheet. I didn't do every count, but I just did the first year and the last year that a certain location was counted. And when a certain location was counted by bold, I kept it in the same row and put different colors, blue for CMRPC, green for Mass DOT, so you can see the differences. So there are most locations did go up, some by quite a bit. There are actually a few locations that the counts actually stayed the same, it went down slightly. There are some discrepancies between Mass DOT's number and CMRPC's number for the same location at the same year. Obviously, that depends on what time of year, what day it was taken, if school was in session, if school was out of session, and like I said, that's why it's important to try and be as consistent as possible when these counts are taken, so you can accurately see a trend over time. If it's taken at different times, then you can have discrepancies. So going forward, it'll be good to have CMRPC doing the counts and updating these counts so we have a consistent data source and methodology. So, because like I said, when I used to put out counters at Old County Planning Council, we used to research location and look for a location, for instance, it's near an intersection, not too close to the intersection so cars are not queuing on the tubes and skewing the data, not putting it on a corner, not putting it on a hill, and picking a time of year where school's in session, it's not a holiday weekend, things like that, to get as normalized a time as possible. So, and I think the CMRPC probably does similar research on their locations as well. So what I would like this committee to do coming out of this is just send me an email, and I'd like you to pick your top 10 locations that you would like to see counted over the next year or two, and I can reach out to CMRPC staff, Rob Raymond, and just ask him over the next couple of years to do a handful each year in the spring and then in the fall. So if you could do that, and because each one of you may have a different reason for choosing a location. It may be strategic, it may be simply because it hasn't been done in a long time, or you could have a reason for that location as far as something's happened over the years that's changed the dynamics of that area, where you think it's important to monitor the traffic. So just give me your top 10. My email's on the website under community development, so just send me an email over the next week or two with your top 10 locations, and I will get those updated over the next year or so, in the spring and then the fall.
Those locations are not necessarily on here. They could be...
Well, top 10 locations here, or you could have a new location.
That's what I'm saying, a new location.
But obviously, we have some locations here that are strategic, the way the counts are pretty old, so we want to update these. But yeah, it could be a new location if you have a location that's not included on this list, absolutely.
Do we have the methodology of how these numbers were arrived at?
No, I looked at the dates and they're a little bit all over the place. So I don't know what thought process. I can tell you what we used to do. The research we used to do. I can talk to Rob Raymond and see if they do the same type of research on locations.
I mean, it would be super important just to know if this is a total per week, total per month, and were they both the same?
It's over 24-hour period.
Oh, a 24-hour period. Okay.
But it might be a Tuesday in the rain on a school day.
Correct.
Or Saturday holiday.
Some of them were taken in July, so obviously school's not in session.
Does it say what season they're taking it?
No, I didn't put that in the table.
They don't just put it there for one day, right? They leave
No, they
it there
usually
a
do it
week or so, and then they kind of average it out.
Yeah, put it over a period of time. And that's why they picked basically a 24-hour period to
Do they average those 3 days?
What? No, they don't average. Again, now you get into questions I can't answer.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know if they average it, or I don't know if they take the most heavily traveled 24-hour over that period. So that I don't know.
The other thing that would be strategic is I see you've got the percent change, but there's different intervals between the years. Like some were 2011 to 2018, some were 88 to 2011. Like if we could see an annualized rate of change, I mean, based on the number of years, was it 3% a year for 26 years? That might look like 70%, but it's really 3%
Well, for
a year.
instance, like if you look at the second one down, Davis Street, Route 16, east of Northeast Main Street.
Yeah.
If you take 1986 to 2014, that's 28 years. So if you do 69 divided by 28, it's 2.5% a year, a little over 2% a year. So
You could actually...
Okay, so you can get...
Yeah, you can kind of do that.
Yeah.
You could actually add a column
What's
and have Excel calculate that number that Bob just mentioned. All you take is the total years divided by
Just annualize it, yeah.
that percent change divided by the number of years. Now you get it.
If you want it, yeah, but...
We're comparing apples and oranges right
Right.
now.
Well, not really, because what we care about is, okay, how much has it changed? You know, how much has it changed from here to now? How much has changed within that per year? It may grow more one per year, more. So you're kind of averaging it out, so you're not getting a true representation. If you're just taking the raw numbers and saying 69% divided by 28, that's about 2.5 per year. But 1 year maybe 1%, the other year maybe 4%. So.
Well, you got Gilboa Street at the Uxbridge Town Line. The minute they opened up that Dunkin' Donuts, that brought a lot of people over there quite fast. Now, what's the NB and FB? Northbound?
Eastbound.
Northbound, eastbound, southbound, westbound. It is the ADT, so it is the average daily traffic. So that tells me they average it out over the 2 or 3 days that they take the counts.
So I guess what you're saying, John, is given the limitations of what we know about the data and what we don't know, we may not get more insight other than what we have.
We're trying to analyze basic trends is what we're trying to do, is just say, okay, because obviously 182% increase from 1986 to 2017, that stands out. Now, when you look at volume, it's not as heavy as some other locations, but, you know, Route 16 west of Mechanic Street stands out because CMRPC's data between 2008 and 2017 had it increasing by 1%. But that same count done by Mass DOT in 2017 was about over 800 vehicles difference, which is not minimal. So again, that tells me, you know, they were done different types of years. So
Well,
that may account for that.
Well, that one only has a, 200 something, 2017 for that spot, CMRPC versus DOT, 2017, 5210 versus 4973 is only a couple hundred.
That one, the one above it, I'm sorry, the west of Mechanic Street above it, in 2017, CMRPC has 12,975.
800, yep.
And Mass DOT has 12,116. So yeah, some are close, there's some discrepancies.
Yeah, it's like a 7%. That's not too crazy, but way up top is a lot more.
In order to do the type of refinement that you're talking about, you really have to have the same conditions for every single count.
And then we're not going to get it.
Yeah, and then you're not going to get it. So again, we're basically just looking at general trends. As far as is it increasing, how much is it increasing over time, and is it something that warrants attention? So.
Any further questions for John? All right, thank you, John. Thank you for putting this together for us. And let them know your choices.
Yes, please.
In the next week or two.
And I'm sorry, so the purpose of the top 10 is to do what with them exactly?
Is to find out what locations you want to update, or new locations that you want to count that aren't included on this.
Oh, okay, for remeasure. Got it, thank you.
No further questions or comments. We'll move on. Next agenda item. So I'd like to pass it on to Emily, Sam, and Charlotte.
Overtown services.
Yeah, so quick before we do the chapters, I had said at the last meeting that I would provide like sort of an updated timeline to just give you a better sense of what the coming months will entail. Here, I'll share this one.
You can take this too for now. There's not enough, I'll take that.
Thank you.
So I'll just go over this quickly. All right, so we're in September now. So we're going to hear about the natural, cultural, and historic resources and open space and recreation, key findings and strategies. That's for today. October, I did have a question about October on the original schedule that I got for the reservations. We had 2 meetings scheduled for October 15th and October 29th. Is that still the case? And do people feel comfortable meeting twice in 1 month?
We seem to be moving right along, actually. And our office only listed 1 in October in our agenda on the 15th, and then November 19th was the next scheduled meeting.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, the list that I had also had the 29th on there for some reason.
Any thoughts on that, John?
You can meet twice if you want. I mean, it's weeks away, so if you want to meet twice, you can meet twice. It doesn't change our posting. Plenty of time to adjust.
That would be preferable probably on our end because those are two big chapters. We have the economic development chapter and then we have the land use chapter. So it might be good to have like a whole meeting for each to talk about them.
Yeah, instead of trying to squeeze it into one meeting.
Yeah.
That's a lot. But leave it up
That's
to
okay.
both.
Thoughts, committee?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
2 meetings in a month? Okay.
I've advocated for that before. I'll do it again.
Yeah, right?
I can do it. All right, I guess we'll meeting twice. in
Okay, all
October.
right, we'll double check that the room is reserved and everything. Perfect. And then, yeah, by the end of October, we'll have wrapped up the key findings and strategies discussions, and then we'll get back into the full chapter discussions. So we'll be kind of wrapping back around. We'll return to the population and housing chapter. So that full chapter will be emailed out to everyone 2 weeks prior to the scheduled committee meeting on November 19th. And we'll use that time to kind of review any kind of issues that we had talked about at the previous meeting where we discussed the population and housing and just any other questions about that chapter, make sure we're heading in the right direction. Also at that meeting, I wanted to begin to discuss like kind of style preferences as we start to actually like create the master plan. So Sam and I will bring a couple like options, I guess, for like the way the recommendations will kind of be laid out, just stylistically, as well as just other design elements of the plan. So we'll have some examples ready for you and just want to get your input on the direction to take that.
I do have a question. On our last master plan, which I thought was a nice touch, is we had an introductory letter from the entire committee. So it's something brief, but something poignant and meaningful as a welcome to the study itself, and it would list all the master plan members.
I like that. Yeah,
So
anything.
It's not a big deal, but I just
personal,
would like to
yeah.
have that right up front.
Could I ask a question back on the traffic studies? Is it possible for us to put a traffic study, it won't be in Douglas, it will be in Uxbridge because of where the line is? Get a traffic study now to see how much the traffic increases once all the warehouses are going? The warehouses are basically on our property, but the way the town line goes, if you stay in Douglas, you're going to miss the traffic count.
So I'd have to check with CMRPC to see if they're okay with
Yeah.
our request to do a count in another town, as long as they're fine with it.
Okay.
Well, I would think the big box stores, obviously, they've done traffic studies for those now, in a bunch of different locations. A lot of times, they get permitted where they have to do follow-up traffic studies
Yeah.
once the thing's built, to see if it's as projected. So I don't know who we talk to, whether it be the planning board here or the planning board in Uxbridge.
Well, we'd have to check to see if
Yeah,
that's the
just-
case, if they actually.
This
I'd have
man
to look
probably
at the
knows right
decision.
here.
I was just going to ask Carol, what part in Uxbridge are you talking about?
Basically,
Specifically.
right after Pines Pit, probably, going towards the 146, because that's going to catch everything. It's going to catch what's ever coming out of the new one that's going into Pine. It won't catch it now because it's not there, but it gives you an idea where
Right.
you're at, and it'll catch the one that's coming out of the cubes.
So basically,
Because I think are we still in Douglas where that driveway even comes out of the cubes?
that's changed about 5 times.
Yeah, that town line,
And I
yeah,
can't tell you where it's going. Right
Yeah.
now, it's in Uxbridge.
right. But, I mean, where the cubes come out now,
Cubes comes out now is definitely Douglas.
it's definitely Douglas. Okay.
Definitely Douglas. That's the new bridge.
Yes, right, okay.
And the Pine site has shifted, I think there's been 4 variations
Right.
on that. 2 and 2.
Okay. It'd be just interesting to know what the traffic counts are now and then what they will become.
No, that's a good point, because they may be doing it already, the consultants for those.
Oh, they have. They have.
They have, yeah, and
Yeah.
they may have to do follow-ups. And what is the big box going in just on the other side of 146? What is that?
That's McKesson. On the Uxbridge side of 146.
Yeah, what?
That's McKesson Pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, they just put their sign up.
Yeah.
I would imagine they've got a traffic study.
Yeah, I think the Vanass did that back 3 years ago.
Yeah.
They paid for all our stop signs in Norton Gilboa because of that traffic study.
And that's vacant now. Is it
No.
operational? No, it's up and running?
No, McKesson is renovating it right now.
Yeah.
Are they taking the whole thing or 75% of it?
Last thought, were they taking the whole
The whole
thing.
thing? Good.
A lot of times these are conditioned so
Yeah.
that they're required to follow up with the traffic to see if it's what they projected it was going to be.
Right, once it's operational, it's in the development agreement, they will do a post-traffic study.
Yeah.
Right now, they can't do it because they're not operational.
Right, but do we have is there any study that tells us what's going on now?
As of a snapshot 3 years ago, when they, before the
it's
planning board. they
Pretty much
did.
the same 3 years,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not
Yeah.
a big deal. Okay.
So that would be the baseline, and we would have access to that.
I could get that information for
I
you.
think that would be helpful.
It's readily available,
And that'll probably be one of the top 10 that we'll ask for,
yeah.
I'm sure. you know.
Yeah, so no sense wasting our funds. on
Yeah.
it.
Right, right,
It's already
right.
there.
Yeah.
Any further thoughts on that? Okay.
All right,
Pass it back.
pick up in December on the second page. So just December, January, February, we'll keep reviewing all of the full chapters. Each of those we'll send to the committee 2 weeks prior to the scheduled meeting for your review. So come prepared, with any comments, questions, edits, things like that. Let's see. And then we can also begin to, during these months, to discuss further community outreach methods to seek input on the recommendations that we're putting out and the draft master plan. So Sam and I will bring forward some ideas for that. We've had a few successful kind of events in other towns that we've done master plans in, sort of a fun event, but also a way to get feedback on recommendations.
What's cool about those is, in Leicester, if you look at their plan, after, we would list, all the final action items, and people would put, a sticker if they liked it or if they didn't like it, and then in the Leicester plan, right next to the action items, we showed, a pie chart showing, the town committee members, support for each of the listed action items. So, green for, in favor of it, red for against it, yellow for neutral. And each of the action items had a pie chart given to it, so.
Yeah, so we'll start to brainstorm some kind of fun ways that would make sense to get the community involved, whether it's in an in-person kind of fun pizza party, but also feedback. I'm trying to incorporate pizza the most I can.
I heard you.
Or something online.
Pizzas and tunnels.
Yeah,
That's all we want.
exactly. So
Someday.
we'll talk about that more. And then, let's see. Yeah, we had discussed holding potentially a joint meeting of all the town boards and committees to kind of discuss the plan and the implementation of it. So that's something we can talk about further. And then by May, I think is our goal, for this committee to vote to approve the master plan and recommend to the planning board and the board of selectmen. We'll make a presentation to the planning board and board of selectmen, and then get input and feedback from those boards. And then hopefully by June 2026, both those boards will vote to adopt the master plan. And I think before we had discussed if we need to bring it to town meeting, but I think we settled that we will not be doing that. That's not a necessary part of this.
Now, who gets it first, planning board or?
So on here, I had suggested doing a joint meeting, just so each board is on the same page.
Well, technically, the planning board, according to Mass General Law, is responsible for the master plan, so I would say the planning board first.
And then they give it to the selectmen.
Right, that's the way it's going in other communities I've
Yeah.
been in, is the planning board signs off on it first, and then it's presented to the select board, because technically, the select board doesn't even vote to adopt the master plan, it's the planning board, and they present it to the select board as a courtesy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can do that, just the two separate meetings. Yeah. Any questions? That sound good?
Thank you
agenda?
for reviewing that. That's helpful. I do have one question. John, we should look into 2026 scheduling.
Yeah.
And then we can present it to the committee.
Okay.
Cool, thanks. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. 2026. Oh my God. It's crazy. Okay, and then, so we left off at the end of last meeting. We had been talking about town services and facilities. I had presented some key findings and action items on that. I just want to just touch on that a little bit more. Let me see here. Where's my list of things? Yeah, at the...
Oh, it was 2 hours and a quarter before they were like,
I think, somewhere. Oh, they're in here.
like,
I'm kind of guessing you didn't bring the packets from last time that I had handed out. So I just printed out the last page of that handout that I had provided at the last meeting, which shows some additional action items that could be included in the town services and facilities. So these are just general topics. I haven't crafted them into like an actual like recommendation yet, but I was curious kind of like if you're thinking about our conversation from the last meeting, if any of these stand out as things we should really, as a town, be focusing on, including in the master plan recommendations, if any kind of like don't really make sense and don't apply. So
Digitizing public records is something that should be highlighted because with the recent water work to be able to sprinkler the second floor of Town Hall, the BFCC had a site walk today of the second floor to look at that. So I know that's one of the priorities is to expand the use of Town Hall to the second floor, and that's probably going to require some digitizing of physical records because right now there's a lot of
storage
being stored up there, so we're going to clear out some room to be able to move some town offices up there.
So is that just used for storage up there? Are there individual offices that can easily be converted?
No, the classrooms.
Oh.
The classrooms.
With cybersecurity measures, what was the specific intent of that bullet point?
yeah, that one I'm thinking, you've heard of like towns kind of getting, I mean, we literally saw like last week the Zoom got hacked. So if there's like other measures we can take for that. I'm forgetting like what it's called, but when
Ransom.
Phishing?
ransomware, yeah. When yeah, I don't even know how to explain it, but towns lose a lot. They'll end up losing thousands of dollars because they get hacked into and threaten to put out all this public information and stuff. So, yeah.
And they hold them up for, it isn't even public information. They have their information, they can't get at it now. Town can't get at it, and they hold them for, it's already happened.
Yeah.
It's happened a number of years ago with the police department.
Wow.
Had to pay ransom to get their stuff back. The police department, so.
I've heard like horror stories, I don't know how true it is, of like the water department getting hacked and then like chemicals being put in the water and stuff. Like there's like all kinds of risks of like people being able to control different systems.
With that, isn't that more though of a infrastructure IT investment by the town itself as part of the budget? Wouldn't that be something that would fall more under that than kind of, I don't know, is that more of a master plan thing, or is that really more of a budgetary focus for the town itself? Because what you're saying is, I guess, for the town administrator to put in the budget more investment in IT, I guess? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I think that would fall under this chapter.
And there would also be grant money available potentially too, under Homeland Security.
Oh, yeah? Oh, okay.
I know our IT department is on top of it right now, because anybody who has a town email address is going through it's
An email conversion.
100-item list to check off. I've got another 108 days to complete mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's responsible of us as a master plan committee to at least address it, and, you know, because it does play into grant funding too. And
Okay.
we want to get grants to support cybersecurity as well.
Well, is cybersecurity not part of the annual budget already when it comes to like the software subscriptions that the town uses for Adobe Acrobat and regular virus scanning stuff on all the town computers? Is that not already
We have
a
an
small
IT
part?
department which is funded.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
And
funded through the
he
budget.
is well supported by the town.
Yeah, so I think that would fall under that, but, I would agree with Bob also that we should address it for the long term.
Yes.
Now, I know a lot of communities will do a cybersecurity annual review. Do you know if they do any of that, Bob?
I don't know.
That's really important. They'll assess their entire system and identify flaws.
Let me see if Dave is there.
Because I work for a financial institution, and we have to do an annual IT audit where we have an outside audit firm come in and they audit everything soup to nuts in our, with our IT, because obviously as a financial institution, it's, it's critical that we have, our cybersecurity, nailed down. I don't know if there's ever been an outside audit firm that's done like a penetration test or something like that. That might be a part of the recommendation then for the cybersecurity is something like that, where there are, like I said, outside firms that'll do penetration tests and other stuff just to, test your cybersecurity measures.
We could just ask the IT department if they've done that. Maybe they do that.
This is our IT department.
It looks like an IT guy.
No, don't say that.
Instead of us guessing, why don't we just ask the professional?
He was sitting there listening. I hope they don't ask me.
No, I wasn't listening, I learned.
He hacked into our microphones and everything.
So what can I help
So
you
just
all with?
identify yourself as
I'm
Dave.
David Bernalia, I'm the IT director for the town of Douglas.
We are a master plan committee. We're considering including certain action items in the chapter about town facilities and services. And one of the ones that we're talking about is cybersecurity measures, whether it belongs as an item in the recommendation of the master plan or whether it's already being addressed in other, like budget.
Can you explain what the master plan is? Just simply so I can see how this plugs in,
It's an overview of, it's a future planning document for the town.
I see.
For different
The next
aspects.
20 years.
Land use,
20 years.
economic development, transportation, infrastructure, open space and recreation. And
10 to 20 year look, too.
So, all right, I see. Long-term planning. I see. So cybersecurity, as far as long-term planning goes, is really how you want me to respond. And whether or not it should be included in the master plan. I'm winging this. You just pulled me out of my cave.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
For instance, do you do an annual audit in terms of security?
Oh, more than annual, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, all right. So
By an
do you
outside-
want to know
by
what
an-
we're doing
Yeah.
versus
Yes.
what our 20-year plan is? Because I don't have a 20-year plan.
What's the existing plan?
What is the existing plan? All right, so
And it's reactive, too.
a lot of it's reactive, but, a lot of it's also proactive insofar as we're trying to take a prophylactic approach where we stay on top of things as best we possibly can. So this year, there's been some changes into our approach to cybersecurity since there's been a reduction of the capacity of the MSIAC, which is the Multi-State Information Advisory Committee, thank you, where they aren't sending out the same level of updates that we had previously received, which would allow us to sort of keep ahead of international threats. So we've had to rely a little more on third-party resources to be able to gather that information. The same thing happened with the elections cybersecurity infrastructure organization, which was kind of officially shut down. So we now have to rely on third party for the purpose of maintaining awareness as to what the security risks are. So when you don't really know what's going on, you have to prepare for the worst and do the best you possibly can to be able to recover from a cyber attack or a natural disaster. And our plans currently, we've really been working very heavily lately on the continuation of operations plan with Kelly Manning Local Fire Department, because the big thing here is we're on a main pipe. We have, a fiber connection going right down to 16. We were off of that. There's no other internet connection in town. There's very little cellular connection that would actually accommodate the bandwidth requirements of things like the public safety or the town hall. So as far as redundancy goes, we have been testing various
solutions and hope in the next year to be able to have a secondary internet resource available to us, which is our primary concern in the event of an outage. As far as cyber attack, I have been through in my career a number of events where I've had to deal with bailing out a municipality in the state of Rhode Island, primarily 2 municipalities there, from a cyber attack, and I've learned a lot from it. The first event occurred in 2012, and the second event occurred in 2013. So I've been able to build the structure of this network throughout the town with those experiences in mind. So we have a series of data backups on-site and off-site, on-network and off-network, all using separate credentials so that nothing could borrow its way through with a single set of credentials and encrypt and or delete or destroy all of the data that we've accumulated. We have been rolling out, with the assistance of a cybersecurity grant from the state of Massachusetts, in every platform that supports it, multi-factor authentication, which we're really trying to push towards the authenticator apps rather than just texts. It's already been compromised on the text level and, frankly, also on the authenticator level, but that's much harder to do. We do encrypt our data wherever it is stored, so that if an actual physical copy of the data was captured, it would not be viewable. Let's see what else we've been doing. Strong password requirements, regular password change requirements. We've segregated the network so that fire department, police department, town hall, water, sewer, senior center, et cetera, every highway, they're all isolated entities, so that if something were to occur to one, we would hope that it would be stopped by one of the firewalls in between these locations so that it wouldn't spill across the entire town and take us all out. We have encrypted all of our radio communications and back up all incoming and outgoing radio transmissions in the same way, various levels of separation. We just recently switched over to the Zoom telephone platform. Previously, we had gone with another local Massachusetts company that we were really dissatisfied with. And Zoom has proven to be a godsend for a variety of reasons. For instance, we just tested this the other day when we were updating the wiring closet at the fire department. We had to take the radio offline, we had to take the internet offline because we were pulling the closet apart, putting in a case and putting everything back in. So for about an hour and a half, everything was completely unplugged. So we had a simulation of a complete outage at the department. So using a cellular hotspot and the Zoom application, which lets you take your personal cell phone, like any app, Facebook, whatever the hell it may be, you put that app on your phone, you log in using your town credentials, and now your town phone is on top of your phone. You have an app that is the phone. So if we were to use that app and make a phone call, it comes through as the planning board or whoever you are, and you would receive calls as well. So what we were able to do with the fire department the other day, and this is part of the COOP, continuation of operations plan, is we were able to get all essential phones fully functional on hotspots while the entirety of the station was down. And we also used that time to conduct a 14-point investigation of our radio continuity when one of the microwave transmitters, which is actually at the fire station, was turned off during this. And we finally found that we actually had full communication on all 14 points. So Kelly Manning wrote up a report and sent that out. And we're really happy to know that we could lose 1/4 of our leg of the radio network and still have functionality. Because remember, this stuff does run over the internet. Our greatest fear is we lose the internet. And if we lose the internet, it can happen in a variety of ways. Cyber attack, outage by the internet service provider, or just frankly power outage. Sustained power outage is a big problem.
Or a dig-in by somebody who's an excavator. And
accident, crazy, weird madness, that can happen too.
All the time.
So what our current exploration is trying to figure out a way that we can get a cellular connect at currently this building, because it's public safety downstairs in the town hall. You can do both at once. And the fire department. And by doing that, the fire department extended over to highway. Which so far really seem to encompass our core requirements of carrying forward in the event of an attack, an outage, etc. The senior center would survive for a few days without internet. The same would happen over at water sewer, although we're working with those guys as well. But in these locations, if we can get a good, strong, like rich bandwidth connection on a cell level, then we'll be able to continue with our phones, we'll be able to continue with our radio, we'll be able to continue with basic computer functionality at all of the public safety and critical infrastructure points in the town. If the cell goes down and the internet goes down and the power's out, we're screwed.
We're all screwed.
But, you know,
everybody else.
yeah, right. So, but my point is we're trying to go as far as we can before we hit that point where we're screwed. And as far as like a multi-year plan would go, it would be, in my opinion, the identification of these critical resources, you know, our fundamental internet connection through Charter, is it still Charter, or is it, yeah, it's Charter, through Charter, our secondary backup through whatever cellular company we can actually get the coverage from at this point. You know, there's some exploration to FirstNet, which is the public safety aspect of AT&T. Verizon has limited coverage in town.
Satellite stuff coming too.
I'm sorry?
New satellite.
The, like, Starlink.
Yes.
Very slow and weak, but it's something. But the thing is, we need more bandwidth that we can get from that. We're looking for at least like a 5G connect, because, for instance, the amount of data that goes back and forth between the cruisers downstairs in the PD and the network here is going to just crash out a Starlink connect. It'll be stuttering and unusable. And not to mention, when it comes to things like basic functionality of the town, other than doing your email and documents, it's not going to really carry us. We need something bigger that we can aggregate. So identifying these, you know, internet resources as things that have to be protected, preserved, and funded for is very important going forward. And we always should be exploring whatever better option we have. We are remote enough where, like I said, we only have one internet service provider and one trunk line coming right down the street. So we don't have anything else to go to. If anything were to come down, we should explore it, you know?
As part of, like, you said the annual, you do at least annual audits. Do they do penetration tests as part of the audits?
We do a penetration test once a year.
Okay.
Okay, now, in the past, we do our own pen test. We could hire someone to do a pen test, and I'm fairly confident we'd just kind of be throwing away town money. But if the town was interested in having a pen test done by a third party, we can definitely do that. It's just something we'd have to fund.
Right. Okay.
But the cybersecurity grant that we got last year did have funding available for that. But since we had been conducting pen tests at a regular rate, they denied us that section because we really didn't need it so much as others. But we could, in the upcoming year, apply for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. I hope I didn't just blather.
No,
sounds like you're
Yeah,
very.
You've been busy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
One last, ransomware.
Yeah.
What's the status of the risk profile for that for the town?
It used to be my nightmare, but these two instances I talked about in 2012 and 2013, it has lots of funny stories associated with, so I'll save for another day, were ransomware attacks. And the first time, in 2012, ransomware was really new. I'll just give you an example. Back then, when they asked you to pay your $500 ransom in Bitcoin, Bitcoin was $280 a Bitcoin. That's kind of giving you an idea of what we're talking about in 2012. So
now we're looking at AI-generated ransomware, you know, in terms of future risk.
Yeah, because AI is now probing every single one of us every single day to find one of us who makes the mistake that lets it come in.
Yeah.
And if you have a level of privilege, we operate on the understanding of least privilege. Everybody has the least privileges they need to be able to operate in their jobs, not the most. You know, it's like trim people down. If they unfortunately compromise a person who has enough access to the network, it just spreads and encrypts and stops things. But like I said, our backup routine has on-network, off-network, and off-site backups. And we have done a thing called versioning, Versioning allows you to keep a number. We keep 30 days, not 30 days, 30 versions of every single file. So, and all of our servers now are virtualized, which is basically you got one big computer that runs a little software version of about a half a dozen servers inside of it. So you have this data file that is an entire server with all the things on it that is necessary to do, let's say, the financials for the town. So every one of those virtual machines is backed up locally, then backed up off-network locally, then backed up in the cloud environment. And each of those is versioned with 30 versions. So on Thursday, we get ransomware. All right. So we shut everything down. We then load in Wednesday's versions of everything, which takes a while because you got to download some of these things. Let's say the encryption, the ransomware encryption got into our local backups and even our local off-network backups, because by off-network they use a different set of credentials than network credentials. They would have to have compromised a lot of credentials to get to that. But let's say they did. We would have to download these enormous files off of our cloud storage, which would take a day or two, and then we just boot things back up. And now the one thing that Matt Wojcik been trying to get us to do, but it's one of those issues of it's a big demand on the town, is to do an actual emergency recovery test where we take every single thing down and we load it in from our backups at real time, and then we just sort of discuss what the hell just happened and how it worked. Did it work well? Were people waiting 8 hours before they were back in? Were they waiting 2 days before they're back in?
Right.
It's a big ask.
It's a huge ask, but it's also something that, it's better to do it once before the day it actually happens. Than, you know what I mean? But it's a big day. Because you remember, during that time, public safety as well, if you do an actual test. So there's a part of us that are like, can we afford like the psychic shock of doing that to the town for a couple of days? And when's best, You never know. So, anyways.
To me, it sounds like getting your inspection sticker for your car. It's something you kind of have to do, and if they say, hey, your emissions is whatever, I mean, you have to find a day to put it into the shop, and you just have to make arrangements to make that happen.
Correct. Tell that to the police chief, though. Because these guys get stressed out. They're like, what do you mean we're not going to have our computers voluntarily for an entire day? And I get it, But the idea of maybe a localized one, we'll just say, let's just do something soup to nuts, like just a town hall. It's a good exercise, even if it's not a realistic one of the whole town gets attacked. Because we are a single entity. We run something here known as a wide area network. Everything is centralized in that room, but it extends to all of the municipal buildings. I mean, the school is its own thing. We don't have any interaction with the school. That's a different IT department. But municipality-wise, it wouldn't be realistic to say just water sewer goes down. It would spread further than that most likely. Or the impact of an event like an internet outage would be across town, not just one of those departments. So I'd like to conduct the test, but at the same time, it is an enormous amount of work for the town, and it takes a lot of commitment. So maybe for you folks, that's something you can help us, plan for, because it should be done. But it's a big undertaking. It would require all the leadership to really support.
Is it a budgetary constraint or just a time and willingness constraint?
It's a time and loss of work and loss of functionality on the level of public safety, for instance, wouldn't be as responsive or as able to do some of the things they do. If the radios are functioning, or the Zoom phones are functioning. And the Zoom phones, I forgot to say this, the other great godsend of the Zoom phone feature that we discovered was super valuable, is they can be used as what's known as push-to-talk, like as radios. So every single officer in the police department, all the firefighters, they could have their Zoom phone up in the event that the radio system goes down, which is internet-based. If a cell tower is still out there, you can use their Zoom phone, not only as a phone, but as a walkie-talkie. It can talk to one or other people using that. So we actually have that as part of our continuation of operations plan. But if we do this test, we would ask people to actually run their day's work using push-to-talk on the Zoom, using their Zoom app. We're going to do it with the assumption that we still have cell, because cell coverage loss would be a regional disaster.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, not a Douglas disaster.
Yeah.
It would be big, and we'd be waiting for guidance at that point from above, you know? But I think it's really just a commitment to the shock to the public. If they want to come in and do things, or they make a phone call to the police or fire, they're not getting the level of service that they're expecting for no reason other than we're conducting a test.
We all did fire drills in elementary school, so,
I
all right,
agree.
guys, you're interrupting your class. It is what it is.
The way you talk about shutting everything down and then just having to use their phones, it almost sounds like, that's kind of like how they used to work 30 years ago.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
going back to the rotary telephone.
Absolutely. And, I mean, you know, I've been doing IT for 29 years,
Right.
so I vividly recall the days when things were I've been working in municipalities from the day when everything was done with typewriters.
Right,
and
right.
we were first putting in their systems. But, you know, it's not so easy to just flip back to that. But I've talked to many people, and they're like, look, if we had to just, you know, for a day, we'll jot everything down on paper, take a ton of notes, type things up, get it ready, and then when the systems come back on, we'll load it on in.
Right.
So people have got that as a way. But the communications element is what we're focusing on the most. Email through a cell phone, town phone, on your cell phone, and radio on your cell phone is our current, you know, best hope for a local event versus a regional event. And people can get a lot done just being able to talk and communicate basically that way, and take a ton of notes and type a lot of stuff up and then put it back into the system when things get turned back on. And I don't think anyone's going to need training on how to take notes.
What about the two-way radios that they have in the two-way radios that they have in the cruises and
Yeah.
stuff? Because I remember, because I've been out of business for a long time, but we had two-way radios. That's how we used to, you know, dispatch
Correct.
the trucks. We weren't as sophisticated as everything they have today.
Well,
But we lived with it.
those radio systems are in place now.
Yeah.
It's just that the traffic, instead of all going over radio waves,
Right,
is going over radio waves and through internet connectivity.
right.
So,
But I mean, if they had to live with it for a few hours, could they, or a day or so? could they live with it?
I think they could.
Yeah.
Well, as a,
And Matt thinks they could.
Yeah, so
It's
people
just
aren't
that
gonna
you're bringing
die.
leadership
as a
together.
society, we've become accustomed to instant gratification.
Right,
Sure.
right.
So it's not the, I gotta write it down, then I gotta enter it into the computer, you know?
Sure.
So it's I don't want to say a burden, but can we do it? Yeah, we could get by and do it.
Sure.
You know, but yeah, it wouldn't be our click, okay, I'm done. What's
The thing,
next?
the thing
You know?
that's hard is if we do a full simulated outage, and during that time we had some sort of like, you know, a real public safety crisis, a big fire, a multi-car crash, I can't just turn everything right back on.
Right,
Right.
right.
It's not like we can be like, oh, stop the test. I can't. So that's, I think, where the hesitation is the
Right.
big unknown. What if proverbial who gets the fan on this day and something really bad happens? So I think that's where the caution comes in. I just speak from IT. I'd love to do it. We can do it. It would be fun to do for me in a way. But everybody else is kind of nervous about it.
And it's like you say,
I don't think that would justify never testing.
Right.
right.
People are like, we can test when it happens. And I'm like, oh, this is not a great idea.
Right.
That's not
Because
a
then
test.
I'm the one
That's not a test, that's reality.
Yeah.
I don't have the ability to say, we tweaked it and we worked out some kinks. It's like, if everything goes to hell and that's our first test and it doesn't work out well, you know, I never got an opportunity to like really iron it out.
Right. I think also, not to drift off subject, but as a test, and where we have mutual aids, other towns could be aware that, hey, we're going to be testing our town.
We can get dispatch going over.
We may need to
Webster or
call,
Rockford.
if the proverbial blank hits the fan, you know, we may need your help.
Yeah, that is kind of
they may
the
need that.
saving grace.
You know,
Right, and vice versa, right.
Right.
So,
it's not a bad idea to get them to know how to do this without that stuff.
Yeah.
Because at least now they're ready if something does happen to it. You'll still be able to keep people safe in the town running, not as fast as you did, but at least you'll be able to do it.
rather than trying to figure it out when it
Yeah, I
happens.
mean, some of these young people have probably never dealt with any of that stuff.
Never rolled up a car window.
But it depends on how much money you have. You can still get a car with a roll-up.
I did that. Seriously? No, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
You're absolutely
So,
correct.
Rich, where do you think we go from here as far as this cybersecurity measures?
I think
Proactive, give a round of applause for an impromptu.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, guys.
And by the way, Dave,
I hate you, Bob.
I will be coming to see you tomorrow to set myself.
Oh, really? Well, I'm not here until next Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, so come see him tomorrow.
Okay, I'll come. Yep. I'll stand in line.
Oh, that's quite informative.
Yes, very informative. Sorry
Well, it sounds like
sorry
he's
to
on-
have taken us off track there with my question, but it was very informative.
Yeah, it's good to know that they're pretty
Yeah.
much on
It's not
top
the
of
first
things.
time, Rob.
How do we capture that?
That's why you didn't have a folder.
Yeah, see, so that guy's a pain in the you-know-what.
That was pretty informative in short order.
Yeah, it was very informative.
Absolutely, very impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
If any of you have any thoughts or considerations on any of that, you want to forward it to CMRPC. You know, it's hard because technology changes by the hour.
Right.
So it's hard to plan 5 and 10 years, but if you have any thoughts or ideas, bring it here or send it off to them.
Certainly.
That was real good information.
Yeah.
I do want to give Sam and Charlotte enough time to go through this, so I think I'm going to pass it on if there's anything else.
Well, let's see if we can bring in the ADA coordinator.
Yeah, right? Yeah, if that's okay to kind of move forward to those.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
Respectful of Charlotte's here with us today, so.
And so, yeah. So, do you want to hand out the things?
Yeah.
And I'll go over like a couple disclaimers that we had. So, first things first, we want to say that there's a lot of things in these two chapters that have a price tag. And the chapters don't really go into like revenue generating items, but that's kind of focused like more in like economic development and land use in the town services chapter. Those chapters are more focused on like building the capacity and generating the revenue that can then fund some of the projects that are outlined in these chapters, as well as the master plan itself being like a mechanism to bring in more grant funding to fund some of these projects. And the other thing that we wanted to mention is that when we're writing the actual chapter, Emily mentioned that we're going to show you guys some different options for like the structure that the chapters could take. And one of the ones we're going with now is sort of going to have a section prior to the key findings that will just be like a general place to store like information that's like relevant to kind of all the different key findings, or like collected data or background information, including for the natural and cultural resources chapter, sort of like maybe a few pages discussing the history of the town and some of the highlights that are sort of relevant to the chapter as a whole. I guess these are just extras. We're going to leave these. And so, let's see. And we do discuss some of the highlights of like the history and whatnot within some of these key findings, but there will possibly be more key findings and probably more action items that will sort of come about as we dig deeper into the history of the town going forward. Rebecca Lavalley has definitely given us a lot of documents to look through related to the town history, and so. But yeah, I think with that we could go into the first key finding.
Awesome. Hi everyone, I'm Charlotte. It's nice to meet you.
Charlotte. Hello.
So yeah, in the packet you'll find key finding 1 is that Douglas's history and heritage landscapes are a key part of its identity. There is also a map of, I think this is page 4, of the Massachusetts Historical commission properties and areas within Douglas, as well as National Register places. So there are 11 inventory historic districts, and then 2 are on the National Register of Historic Places. So that's the Hayward Mill Historic District and the Old Douglas Center. The other 9 are inventoried with the Mass Historic Commission, as seen in that map. And then the only place in town with a preservation restriction is the Jenks store. So that preservation restriction is a tool that limits any sort of restoration or altering of the property that doesn't particularly align with its historic use or image, and that'll kind of come up later in the action items. I'm going to skip over this and give that to you. But on page 3, you'll also find a word cloud representation of the answers from Master Plan Survey Question 16. Are there any historic buildings or sites in Douglas that you feel the town should prioritize for preservation? The number 1 answer was the library, followed by the Jenks Store Museum, the old fire station, the grammar school. So in need of some preservation protection, as seen in that word cloud. As well as the Douglas historical narratives. One of the biggest narratives that kind of came up in my research was the 1946 baseball game. I have heard that the Recreation and Historical Commissions in town are working on signage at the field to commemorate the event. But these kinds of stories kind of commemorate Douglas's past and offer residents a deeper understanding of and connection to the place that they live. So also worthwhile to mention under history and heritage landscapes, which I'll discuss heritage.
Yeah, sure. So the Department of Conservation and Recreation created a report in 2007 for the town called the Reconnaissance Report, it was part of the Massachusetts Heritage Landscape Inventory Program, which listed some of the key sites of importance and like historical and cultural value in the town. And I sort of dug into those a little bit more after we had sent over this report, because I finally got a chance to look through the Reconnaissance Report in more detail. But the sites of importance that were listed were the Hunts Ponds property, the Wallace Sawmill, the Rawson Farm site, the cemeteries in town. There's 15 in total, but the report focused on 2 of significance, the Mumford Riverfront, and then the Southern New England Trunkline Trail and the Stone Arch Bridge. And so also of note is that for the Hunts Pond property, or Hunt Ponds properties, because there's 2 Hunts Ponds, there's an upper and lower Hunts Pond, and then there's like a mansion on the site, but it's also adjacent to the town's old fire station, which has a lot of historical value for the town, and is currently being looked at by the Historical Commission and I think the Capital Planning Committee as like a possible site of future preservation projects. And the Hunts Ponds, like the mansion there, and like the parcels associated with it that are all under the same ownership, has recently gone up for sale as well.
That has an approved subdivision on it. You're right, it's been bought by Afonso, and I've been in communication with them recently because it's changed ownership, but they are moving forward, I think, with a large subdivision on that property.
Okay, so it is going to happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was approved back in 2017, and basically I had to make sure that the total, that it hadn't expired, and checking with town council, it hasn't. So I actually had a meeting just this morning with town council and the attorneys from both sides, and it is going forward. So they're just finalizing a new covenant to replace the previous covenant to move the project forward.
Is anything positive happening with the ponds there? Because I know that was a separate parcel.
Yeah, no, not that I'm aware of.
Do you know how many units they're putting in?
I think it's 27 homes.
Are they
Is that on the back property?
Is that?
John?
Yeah, on the back property. The mansion's going to remain.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, so the ponds apparently, at the time of the reconnaissance report, they also had a good view of the mansion. I'm not sure how true that is now with like new vegetation growing in around the ponds, but the parcels covering the ponds were privately owned by the mansion owner. So unless the parcel goes up for sale, which now it has, there was like nothing that could be done with those ponds, so it's kind of unclear what's going to happen to them at this point, I guess. But the lower, both of the ponds have dams on them. The lower Hunts Pond dam did not have hazard data associated with it, but the upper Hunts Pond dam was marked by the Office of Dam Safety as being like a significant hazard site, which is not like an indication of structural integrity, but it does indicate that the dam is located where like a dam failure could cause a loss of life or damage to homes. This is a direct quote from the Office of Dam Safety. It could cause loss of life, damage to homes, industrial or commercial facilities, so damage to them. It could be a risk to highways and railroads, or cause interruption of use or service relative to important facilities. So I think that's based on just its vicinity to Route 16 and nearby homes. So that's something that, you know, CMRPC, like we could like maybe find like funding to go ahead and take like an assessment of those dams to see what the situation is with them, and like how bad the structural integrity actually is. The other thing about this site is that apparently the upper pond was traditionally used for skating in the winter, so it did have a history of being used by members of the town and the community. So the reconnaissance report mentioned that the previous landowner hadn't been responsive to like potentially allowing public access in the past, but maybe with this new ownership something could come up there. And then it could be kind of a cool preservation project to have like the old fire station be like a site with like interpretive signage, and maybe that gets renovated, and then there could be like pathways leading down to the ponds for use for fishing or canoe access or something like that. And so that was like a consideration that was mentioned. The mansion itself was actually, I think it was the Schuster family had originally owned it. So they're obviously a very significant family in Douglas's town history. It's a big, beautiful, like English colonial revival mansion. And also the Douglas Axe Factory had its origins right by Lower Hunts Pond, or Upper Hunts Pond, I forget which is which. And then right around where the fire station is now located is where the second Axe Factory building was placed. And then the original factory had been like burned down, and then it was like rebuilt around the same area. So there's like a lot of history of the origins of that industry sort of kicking off there. So it does have a lot of historical significance on that site.
So Sam,
Yeah.
I did get a call a few weeks ago from a person inquiring as far as the potential use of the mansion as a wedding venue, wedding reception venue, in terms of what the approval process would be, and if it's allowed. I returned their call. I haven't heard back, so I don't know where that stands, but there is some interest in preserving that as potentially like a wedding type of venue or a function type of venue.
Okay, great.
They have a similar mansion up in Barry, do they not? That hosts similar types of events. There's a giant mansion.
I'm aware of that one. Yeah.
Really? It's pretty close to downtown.
The Allen.
That's right.
I went to a wedding.
Yeah, I heard it's really nice, and yeah, that's the exact use they use for it. Yeah.
Where is Hunt's Pond?
What's that?
Where is Hunt's Pond?
Do you know where the waterfall is? Downtown, just up the street here?
Oh, yeah.
Getting to Cottage
Just
Street.
up there.
Oh, and that
Just
mansion.
That long driveway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I got you.
I imagine they use the water for power, if that's where they cited.
They use them all for both.
Yeah, I don't think it's currently being used for anything like that.
No, I know it isn't now, but
Yeah.
maybe that's why it was cited there.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
They used to skate up there, as I understand, across from public.
Are there two mansions, or just the one we see from the street?
There's only one mansion that's mentioned.
There is a guest house up there, but it's what you see is the mansion.
Is the mansion.
Now, wasn't the first Schuster Mansion the one that's where Dave Cave was with the
Yes.
big lawn in front of it?
Yeah.
So they probably use the access road between where,
And there's actually a house in between those two.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
the accordion teacher.
So the second heritage site is the Wallace Sawmill property. So there is a dam there as well, but that also does not have data available. And the site originally had a water wheel, but now it has it was recently rebuilt to have a water-powered turbine that apparently is still able to be actively used. But the site itself dates to, it's like pre-industrial, it's from the 18th century. But has a lot of like the original like features on the site are still like surprisingly very well intact. And the cedar swamp, which feeds into the sawmill, was also reportedly used for timber harvesting before Douglas was even incorporated in 1746. There's a cedar swamp nearby that's also on the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program from the state as like a natural community, which means it's of state interest for conservation, but there's not specific protections placed on it. However, like they do have a caveat that there are rare species that may occur within those locations, which could warrant greater protection and would make it like actually permanently protected by the Endangered Species Act. So there's like need for like an assessment of like what's actually going on in there.
But isn't that mostly state forest property now?
It's like adjacent to the state forest, but I don't think it's actually protected by the state forest yet.
Okay.
And
the swamp is further down on Wallace Street, between Wallace Street and 16.
Yeah.
If I'm thinking of the Cedar Swamp.
I remember Cedar Swamp as being...
The handout has a map of all of them.
Cedar Swamp is, they had the blind.
Yes, out behind Bad Luck
Out
Pond.
behind
That's what
Bad
I
Luck.
remember it as.
Yeah, behind Bad Luck.
Yep.
Yeah,
Now
it's like just to the west of Bad Luck Pond.
Yeah,
It was upstream of the sawmill.
yeah. Plus, you know, how much of it's getting flooded?
That mill has been gutted.
Yeah,
The sawmill, everything.
Yeah, it's been gutted about 5 years ago. Some guy from Canada came down, bought all the equipment.
So it like he just took everything out and
It's a flat floor right now, nothing in it but a roof, open walls.
Okay.
Is Bad Luck Pond and Laurel Lake the same thing?
Yes, it would be. Yep. Laurel Lake, Crystal Lake also. Yep.
What page are you on?
Different names.
What page?
The second to last and the last, and yeah, all these wonderful maps now we can know what we're talking about.
So the pond is likely featured there, but they might not have like a symbol for the swamp, but the swamp is directly west of the pond. So if you find the pond,
You go to your...
the swamp will be directly west.
And that's not part of the,
So
it's on Southwest Main.
Cedar Swamp.
Yeah, it's not
Sawmill
in the
would be
state
down.
I'm
forest.
surprised the state hasn't done
Right where
that.
Cedar Street crosses.
Yeah, so there'll be
It shows that
the
it
turbine
has
that he was talking
Yeah.
about, water wheel.
pieces.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Created by the King of
Thank you.
England. That's for masts and shingles and
So yeah, even so the
Yes.
sounds like the sawmill might not be there anymore, but the cedar swamp is still a site of significance on its own, white cedar swamps in particular, I've known this just from like digging into this in the past, are also potentially culturally significant sites for the Nipmuc, because they had actually used cedar wood and like for ceremonial purposes. So there could be some like additional layer of significance placed on it just from that alone, because we do know that the Nipmuc they did have like sites in town that they had like either hunted or fished at, or like I'm not sure if there was like a specific village, but there was like different campsites that they used in town. It is possible that the cedar swamp was actually used historically by them. But yeah, so it sounds like the sawmill property has been sold, so we can take that one off the list, I guess. But
It hasn't been sold.
well, apparently
They
it's
took
got-
The interior is gone.
Okay.
The old.
It's still owned by Linda,
Isn't it owned by that old guy that used to own the campground?
the
up there?
campground, yeah.
Yeah.
But his wife owned it.
Okay.
Put it in her name.
Okay, but they gotta be
Yes.
old as dirt.
Yeah.
I think that guy was older than I am.
So next on the list, we have the Rawson Farm. What's that?
Where is that?
The Rawson Farm?
Yeah.
It's, if you look at the...
It's on the Uxbridge line.
Yeah, it's on the line with Uxbridge. It's number...
U Street.
Yeah.
Very, on that heritage landscape.
It's on U Street. What I'm seeing is like,
That's where,
I think this is a little bit, this map has a little bit east.
It's almost out past Merritt Tatro.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Here's what.
Is that where
Almost to the Whitensville rod and gun.
some woman named Sue used to live there?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
I even think I saw a for sale sign there
Yeah.
the other day.
That
Went out
was-
that way.
That was owned by relatives of mine at one time.
But it seems to still be in active use as Chapter 61A land, and it seems to be split between two owners. There's a sign at 296 U Street that says like Quiet Farm, and there's like a sign below it saying like they'll give out like free manure, so if you want free manure you can go there. But I looked up that Quiet Farm, and apparently that site is operated by Morning Beckons Farm, which is a 250-acre alpaca farm in Thompson, Connecticut. And they appear to have two parcels there in Chapter 61A, and then there's two other parcels in Chapter 61A that are part of what looks to be the original Rawson Farm site that are owned by another person. But according to the reconnaissance report, there's no original farm buildings left on the site, but there are lots of intact remnants like foundations and like a terrace. There's a fieldstone lined cellar, and then there's stone ramps for cattle, and there's like a stone bridge that they would cross. And the original farm dates back to the 1800s and was originally subsistence farmed. And silver mining was also reportedly unsuccessfully attempted on the site. So there's a lot of like stories going on with the history of the site that can be dug into, and the property owner is apparently like, I don't know if this is the same property owner that existed at the time of the reconnaissance report. They were respectful and protective of the cultural features on the site, and they were interested in having a CR placed on the property, but it's unclear what became of that. CR is a conservation restriction, so it's a preservation restriction but for conservation land. The site is also adjacent to a meadow, and there was like the potential mentioned of making it a site for guided walks and other like combination of historical, ecological, and agritourism all in one, because you have like a meadow nearby, you have the farming history, and you have the historical significance of the site. So there's a lot that could go on there. And then moving on to the cemeteries. Like I said, there's 15 cemeteries in total in town, which all have preservation and maintenance issues associated with them. The two listed in the reconnaissance report were just ones that were broadly representative of the group, and the recommendations they offered could be applied to any of the cemeteries in town. But two of the ones they mentioned were the South Douglas Cemetery, which reportedly contains Revolutionary War soldiers. And the first Methodist church in town was apparently adjacent to this site, but the congregation split up. And the Methodist church in East Douglas was established, and then it took off while the church in South Douglas was eventually, it ceased to operate and burned down in 1896. There's also the Pine Grove Cemetery, which used to have like a grove of pines on the site. But now it's only one large pine remains on the site, and then there's some new pines that have been planted recently and some other new small trees that have been scattered about it. But the new plantings, this is up in East Douglas, so this is like just north of like the downtown. The new plantings seem to be kind of randomly placed about, so there could be some potential to do some landscaping work or like add some new amenities to the site to give it more of like a cohesive design. And the cemetery is located where mill workers, the Pine Grove Cemetery, is located where mill workers once lived. And so you can actually use the inscriptions on the monuments to track the arrival of various immigrant groups into town, over like the different groups that are arrived over time, and like see like which graves belong to who. And the site also contains Potter's Field, which is like a portion of the site that's set aside by the town, was historically set aside by the town to bury folks in unmarked graves if they couldn't afford their own funeral. So there's a lot of history going on there as well. And then we have two more of these that I'm going to go through, try to be as quick as possible. There's the Mumford Riverfront, which the heritage inventory of the Mumford Riverfront was including the parts of the river that were adjacent to B Street, which is like where the current Riverwalk is being placed. And then they also included, coincidentally, the site across from the factory building on Gilboa Street. And both of those are having are currently having new projects associated with them. There's an MVP action grant out to turn the property across from Gilboa Street factory into like a factory building, or into a pocket park. The factory building with the project. And then the site on B Street is now becoming the Riverwalk potentially. But the site on B Street was actually the upper works of the Douglas Axe Manufacturing Company. That was the site of it. And so there are supposedly still remnants of like mill, like stonework at the site. So I didn't know this when we were talking about this project before, but it also can serve as like a historic site as well. The site across, like the pocket park across from the factory on Gilboa Street, that wasn't really used by the Gilboa Street factory, but you could still have like interpretive signage there because that is where like the old Hayward Schuster mill was. Like you can just look at it from there. So there's historic significance there. When I was looking into this, I also found out that there was like a Riverwalk proposed in the past that had extended from Gilboa Street down through the B Street property and went all the way down to where the St. Denis Cemetery is on Manchog Street. So that's a more ambitious project, but it was one that was considered in the past, and there may be like potential to, after this Riverwalk project is done, maybe extend it to some extent. And then the last site is the Southern New England Trunkline Trail and the Stone Arc Bridge. There was interest. The one thing I should note for this one is that there was interest in connecting the Southern New England Trunkline Trail to the Grand Trunk Railroad, and they were exploring having like the DCR contribute to that, since a large part of the Southern New England Trunkline Trail and the Grand Trunk Railroad are like within the state forest. But it's unclear if any progress has been made with that, and whether there are other parts of town that could facilitate some kind of connection between the two railways. And then there also seems to be a Friends of SNET group now. So I think there were concerns mentioned over like the maintenance of the Southern New England Trunkline Trail, just like the maintenance of the path. The Bay State Trail Riders had done most of the maintenance of the trail in the past, but there was a question of whether the town or the state could formalize like an ongoing regular maintenance schedule of the trail. So maybe like the Friends of the SNET group could help in like getting that started. So then moving on to the next few things.
Yeah. With kind of that historical context, the second key finding is that the quantity, age, condition, and cost of maintenance of these historic artifacts is a serious challenge. Like all across New England towns, this reality that these structures are going to require increased retrofitting, investment to maintain and restore to kind of adapt to these more modern standards. It's very complicated and very costly, especially for a small town with limited financial resources. There was a lot of survey responses that were raising concerns with these, saying that especially with privately owned historic homes, there are several antique homes in Douglas that are privately owned. The town should support owners that are working to preserve and renovate antique properties, possibly incentivize them to be placed on the National Register of Historic Places. And then with that, a greater challenge lies with publicly owned and commercial buildings. So they require more extensive upgrades in order to meet certain accessibility standards. Prime example of this is the Simon Fairfield Library. As it is a kind of cultural centerpiece, I thought it was very necessary to include in this chapter. It does require a series of very expensive retrofits and upgrades to kind of ensure it meets those ADA standards. According to their website, they've received a series of sketches, architectural designs to make sure it is up to those standards, but have fallen short on mostly funding. And I understand that the cost of building to the Mass Board of Library Commissioners standards would cost between $13 to $19 million, which is a hefty sum. But I do know that the library trustees are trying to build up capital reserves to make sure that any future rounds.
Yeah, they're not getting there anytime.
Right. But there's mixed community sentiment on what should be done with the library. That came up, like I said earlier, quite a bit in the comment section. People saying that the library is a cultural centerpiece, other people saying that it is a waste of useful resources, which is...
Yeah, a waste of useful resources is something I certainly don't agree with, If somebody wants to develop it, it's like, no, that's not, that's just somebody with dollar signs in their eyes. That's
the issue with that is it's purposed for a library and a library only.
Right.
So.
But that does raise a question of how much public investment should kind of be directed towards these historical and cultural preservation opportunities when there are a lot of competing priorities.
That's the problem.
Are you going to suggest grants or other resources outside of town funding?
Yeah.
I know you had mentioned something, Sam, in the past.
We had explored different grants in the past. One thing that I should say is that the Board of Library Commissioners in town, that's what they're called, right? The Board of Trustees for the library in town. They are not really going to try to bring it to the Mass Board of Library Commissioner standards because that is insanely costly, and it is it's proposing building it out to have more space than could even fit on the parcel, from what I've heard. So they're just trying to figure out the most cost-effective way to bring it up to ADA, to make it ADA accessible and make it so elderly people can actually, or with handicap can actually get into the building, because right now it's all just staircase, there's not a ramp or anything. So figuring out what can be done to make it as accessible as possible for as low amount of money as possible.
Is there any sort of dollar range they're talking about, or?
There hasn't been one proposed yet because they need to do a cost analysis to figure out what that would look like. We have
it's an elevator and or ramps.
Mm-hmm. And a bathroom.
And bathrooms,
and so we looked at a couple of grants for them so far. One of the ones we determined after pursuing it for a little while that it just wasn't going to be something that they would actually fund. It would just be a low priority for the grantees. But then another one that we were going to go after just got defunded, so it's no longer a grant program, so we can't go after that one anymore. But we're still keeping an eye out for potential options. But yeah, as of right now, the trustees in town are just trying to raise funds for it. So.
Well, if we just went to the historic committee and we have to, Douglas is an old town, and I'm not sure what the standard is for being a historical site versus just being a really old house, and what the historical significance is of all these various properties. I'm not super intimately familiar with that stuff, but if we have to trim a little bit in order to preserve these more historical sites, I think that should be a way to go. Is that even within the scope of the master plan, or is that really seated with the historical committee, though?
Isn't that a lot of it's a state code? I think it's kind of outside our jurisdiction. I'm looking at, there's a beautiful old house up there at the intersection in Northwest Main and Oak Street that they're redoing.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
It was built in the 1700s.
Yep.
But to bring that thing up to code, and that's why a lot of times they tear these houses down.
Right.
You just can't. It's the state requirements.
It's like
a shame.
feasibly impossible to...
Yeah, it's a
But
shame.
it
They tear 'em down.
it is a valid finding of this exercise that
Right.
these things are threatened, and we need to, at least mention it in the plan, and I think we agree that they should be supported. We're not saying how to support
That's the
it.
problem.
Right,
yeah.
right.
But
In general, yeah, they
where
should.
we have found something, I think we have a responsibility to articulate.
Sometimes if people are looking for support, whether private or public, and you cite it in the master plan, they can cite that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
500 properties, I think it said, in town.
But that house in the corner of Oak Street there really is beautiful. They're doing a wonderful job. I can only imagine what it costs. to renovate
Did that used to be an inn way back?
No, because he asked the guy, I know the guy that's doing it, he was asking me.
Because I believe,
He thought it was a Wallace probably, but I don't think it ever was.
I don't think it was Wallace,
It
but
wasn't Wallace.
as what I used to call, we used to call the old Pike, which is
Yeah.
what, south, I get mixed up, southeast Maine? Southeast Maine, which would go, used to go straight up over the common.
Right.
Turn into Northwest Maine.
And then went right to the
Straight through
reservoir.
where Manning's property is and would go straight through the reservoir and come out on that side.
Exactly, come
Yeah.
right up there, right there.
It was a straight shot
Yeah,
right through.
right.
That's interesting, Ross. I thought it ended at the common.
No, as a matter of fact, years ago, when the reservoir
Yeah,
was
you could see
down,
where it
you
went.
could see the roadway
And you can see,
through,
you
yeah.
can see the two stone
Stone
walls
walls.
where the road
Yeah.
went, where it goes across the island.
Yeah, it would come right out through
And it came
Peters
right out
Cove
of
and,
Peters
yeah.
Cove up there,
Yeah.
right.
Interesting.
And of course, the part in Rhode Island was a toll road.
Also, to be clear, when we say there's like 500 inventoried sites, we're not saying that all of them are actually like permanently protected and that there's no development that could happen on them. Right now, like the majority of those are still subject to potentially being demolished and redeveloped. So, like, it's not like the town is like wasting away money, like trying to keep all of these different sites protected and not prioritizing it.
Do we want to talk about, add this to the section, the town does not have a demolition delay bylaw, correct?
Yeah, that's one of our.
Would that be a
proposed
possibility?
actions. Yeah.
Yeah.
To take a look at these before they get demolished, to see if the town wants to step in and try and preserve them?
The survey was done in like 87, 88.
And has it been updated at all, do you know?
Not that I know of.
And all they did, part of it too, was just if it was built before a certain date, it got on there. Some of those houses really weren't anything. Well, there were no big shakes, believe me.
Old houses get older. 40 years.
Yeah, but they had no historical significance, and they really didn't, because I know, because I owned one of them, and it was a piece of crap. In fact, the guy I bought it from, I said to him, because I saw what they were saying, I said, did they ever come in and look at this? He said, oh, no, I didn't let him in. I said, well, I'm calling him in.
So should that be part of our exercise, is to
To see what's
determine
good.
what the historic significance is of these various properties
Right.
and see what's worth it?
Yeah.
And
And as I understand it, they've updated their methodology for actually classifying sites as historic since then, so there's probably some thinning to be done. Is that mine? Okay. So next one is that the open space facilities require various maintenance and accessibility enhancements as well. And given the lack of capacity in general in the highway department and on town committees and like a shortage of volunteers in town, maintenance of open space is an ongoing concern, as well as the accessibility of the existing open space facilities. An ADA self-assessment and transition plan was done as part of the 2022 open space and recreation planning process, which looked at like municipal open space facilities in town and provided like recommendations for bringing them up to like ADA standards. But without a funding source for those changes, most of them have not been implemented. So that represents another big capacity and cost concern for the town.
Move right along. So the fourth key finding is that forests and open space are highly valued. but are threatened by sprawling development. A lot of people said on the survey that they really appreciated Douglas's natural beauty, moved here for the woods, hope it stays woods. According to the iTree website, Douglas has 17,771 acres of tree canopy, which is approximately 76% of the town itself, compared to 2.6% of impervious surfaces. And then over 15,000 acres are identified as critical natural landscapes, which are large blocks of land that have actually been minimally impacted by development and are also buffers to core habitats. Douglas is also designated within the Blackstone River Valley National Heritage Corridor, alongside 11 other towns, which is representative of the damming and harnessing of the Blackstone River for water power that fueled the early industrial revolution. So another kind of historical context within the town. And then the Douglas State Forest also came up quite a bit in the survey as a very exceptional recreational and natural resource in town. It's 5,000, almost 6,000 acres, and it offers public access to Wallem Lake for boating and fishing and walking trails, picnic areas. A lot of people described it as a unique access, or as a unique feature in town. And just kind of leveraging the access to the state forest, as well as the SNET. There's a opportunity for Douglas to kind of welcome more recreation seekers across the state and the region. A lot of feedback also about the SNET and other trail systems say that they are essential ecological assets. People would like to see kind of these trails be better preserved or protected. And then kind of with that protection, I would also mention the Community Preservation Act of the CPA. It was a question on the Douglas Master Plan survey before it was brought to town meeting. So people did vote that, like 62% of people voted that open space protection was something that they would like to see CPA funding go to. The CPA did not pass in town, but it is something, if the town wants to reconsider, it is an action item to create more educational outreach materials for people to vote on the CPA, kind of a better understanding of what those funds do, what the taxing of the CPA looks like. It was kind of attributed to a general lack of familiarity with what the program does, as well as a dissatisfaction with increasing tax burden in town. Moving on, there's also a substantial portion of land in Douglas that's enrolled in Chapter 61 lands. I have a table on Figure 3 of what Chapter 61 entails. Sam kind of mentioned Chapter 61 earlier. Most of the chapter lands in town are under Chapter 61, which is forest land. While Chapter 61 isn't necessarily a conservation or preservation tool, it does offer the town the opportunity to assess when land is withdrawn or sold. The town does have the right of first refusal. There's a strategic opportunity for the town to kind of take on those lands to preserve more forest, open space, or farmland. And there's a map on page 10 of chapter lands in Douglas. I will say the handout, the symbology doesn't really translate over between chapter 61A and 61B, but we might put it on the screen. Yeah, so that's a lot better.
Can you blow that up a little bit? Or?
Which is that one?
10.
10, okay. Oh, let me read that 10.
Trying to see where I live, if that's part of it.
I don't know that it's updated.
Yeah, it might be.
This might be Street. This is an
Oh, it's only people put it into it.
Yeah.
Like along southeast Maine, there's a lot of development going on.
Yes.
That is not, it says it's chapter land, but it's not.
Came out of it.
Yeah, they're putting up like 9 houses there, right along southeast Maine and onto Perry and, yep.
And orange.
And orange, yep.
And they're all over $1 million.
Yeah. They're all $900,000 or higher,
Oh,
those
yeah,
houses.
yeah. It's a nice little tax income, though. Which, we need the money. On
Better than
finance.
40B.
We need the money.
Would it be possible to
We
make
need the money.
greater distinction between 61A and 61B in the mapping for us, so we can
Yes.
identify
Yeah.
that? Not now, but necessarily,
Right,
yeah.
yeah. Updating that,
Yeah.
the symbology.
Oh, yeah.
That's definitely on my list.
Is the town interested in Breezy Meadows at this point?
Breezy Meadows.
About the picnic ground.
Apparently that had closed up.
Well, what I hear is they're closing their water slides.
Right, yeah.
But they're maintaining it as
The part, yeah.
grounds,
Right.
Oh, okay.
things like that, so they're not completely closing, they're just closing down the water slides.
And that's what it was before they put the water slides.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
Good question, you have to ask Ken.
Yeah, okay.
It could be water, rates of water to keep all the slides.
Yeah, I'm sure it's high
Probably the
maintenance.
insurance.
Liability, yeah. Liability insurance is probably
There's a
the
race
biggest.
down them.
And now it's getting old, it's been there for 42 years, it
Yeah.
probably needs a lot of
Been a while.
maintenance. And
Yeah.
my grandsons work there.
Yeah,
I think every kid in town's worked there.
Pretty much, you're right.
It's kind of iconic now. Kind of sad to lose it.
So I should have gone this summer. I keep telling grandkids I'm going to go with them. Guess I missed my opportunity.
I went once and I got yelled at for running.
You rebel.
Probably 50, 60.
You
rebel.
over those little children.
I actually called them.
I was anxious to take another ride. It was fun.
I called them this summer to host a company event there, but they don't have any grills for like public cooking of any sort. There's no BYOB or anything like
Oh, no,
that.
that's
So
not allowed.
I found that out. We had to go do that. We went to Charlton instead. So, I had to take my business elsewhere. But, hey, having a brewski and a burger, I don't know, outside, not on, I don't even know if it's private property or not, but I was disappointed.
Well, speaking of water resources, key finding number 5 is that water resources are important to the environmental health and recreation and community identity of Douglas. There are 858 acres of surface water, 74 miles of streams, and 12 aquifers, one of which is classified as high yield, which can yield more than 300 gallons a day without the threat of depletion. Again, vital for drinking water, wildlife habitat, flood control, and recreation. There are 3 major watersheds in town: the Blackstone River, the Kennebog River, and the French River. There was a lot of comments on the survey about water access, particularly with the beach out at Wallem Lake in the state forest. There was some residents who expressed frustration with beach access, saying that there should be like reduced fees for people in town, for residents of Douglas, just to be able to enjoy those water resources that Douglas has. There was a natural resources assessment that was conducted by the Blackstone River Valley National Heritage Corridor Commission, and it identified that the Whitten Reservoir, which includes the Mumford River, as a very important cultural and natural asset in town. And like we've talked about the Riverwalk plans, but there were people who seemed very interested in implementing a Riverwalk in town. And I've included those comments here. And then also with water resources, there was some concern about stormwater runoff and pollution, which kind of threatens that water access and like drinking water safety. So people were talking about managing stormwater systems. And this was also identified in the hazard mitigation plan that CMRPC put out in 2016. There were 5 locations in town that experienced a lot of flooding due to heavy rain and stormwater runoff. So that was Wallace Street.
I think the Riverwalk was also listed as, we had asked about potential options for the town center, and that was the highest rated option, I think. So that would be good to point out in future like grant applications for like a Mass Trails grant or something that could help fund that project.
Definitely. So yeah, any comments on water access, recreation.
At least where I live, one of the biggest things I'm worried about, like we were talking about all those houses going up on Southeast Main, I have a well. And one of the things I had asked at one of the town meetings about a year and a half ago was, is anyone doing any studies to find out how this is going, all this development is going to impact existing wells? You know, I said, eventually you put enough houses up and the water level...
Tapping off.
You're tapping it out.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, I built on U Street 30 years ago, and we had incredible water. They were just running water down U Street. Matter of fact, the road was still dirt. And I believe it was Rafferty had a deal where they were running the pipe through, and I had the option to tie in or not, and I didn't. But when they put the town well online on Glen Street, you should see my static level in my well when I used to run irrigation off my well. I'm lucky if I can wash a car.
So it was the town that took it?
Yeah. Now, plus we still got, development upstream of all that also, but it was what a demand that town well put on the aquifer. Crazy.
Well, one of the nice things about the rural properties where you're on well and septics, they're kind of really self-contained, keeps getting recycled.
That's true. That's true.
Whereas when you put in the big sewer lines, that's when you start to have the problems where they just take it all out of there.
I can remember arguing with people 30 years ago that we can't have all this building, there's no sewers. I said, you keep all the water here, you put it in the sewers, you send it to the ocean. This is the best thing going, a well and a septic.
It regenerates.
You keep using the same water over and over.
Yep.
So where are we?
Number 6?
Yeah. So this is about the demand for new recreational facilities. There's a lot of that, like different options proposed for different new types of recreation in both the OSRP process and the master planning community engagement process. A top priority for the youth has been having more places to congregate outside of school, like a community center or a park could be potential options, like keeping, by doing so, you're also keeping youth where they should be and not in places where they could commit vandalism or other things like that, or other nefarious activities. The OSRP had more detailed questions about the different types of recreational facilities people wanted to see, and some of the top scoring answers were bike lanes on roadways, more sidewalks, just indoor recreational facilities, passive recreation like hiking trails, but it's important to keep in mind that there is a selection bias there for folks that have more of an interest in open space to fill out the open space and recreation survey. So a lot of passive recreation stuff was mentioned, but in the current master plan survey, we had 54% of residents saying that the town needs more active recreational opportunities, but that wasn't put against it wasn't like you're picking active versus passive recreation. It was just whether you're in favor of active recreation or not. So 54% of people said that they were in favor of active recreation, and coincidentally 54% of people also said that they were in favor of passive recreational opportunities. But so recreation across the board is in high demand is what that basically is saying. There was a lot of in the student community engagement process, a lot of kids were just saying we feel like all you can do in the center of town is eat pizza. There's not other places to go to, and we're looking for more things to do, and so things like a BMX park or improving the existing skating park, or different options that were thrown out there. And
don't we have a skate park down at the middle school?
Yeah, they said that they would like to see improvements to that because it's currently, I guess, in rough shape.
Pretty small, yeah.
Yeah, it's small.
I don't even think it's the size of the court out here. It's pretty tiny.
Yeah, well, we're just talking about Breezy Gardens, they're not utilizing that as an outdoor recreation.
That's also paid too, though,
Yeah.
It's also not close to the schools, so.
Yeah.
A Riverwalk would be a nice place for them to hang out.
Yeah. We incorporate the BMX thing down there, they can jump the river.
There you go. If you don't make it, you gotta stop landing.
That's right, now then you learn how to swim.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now we'll move right along with the action items.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
It's like kind of the more
Sure.
So developing a historic preservation plan, like we talked about earlier, determining the historic significance of, these 500 structures that we talked about. The historic preservation plan would kind of provide a structured framework to assess and inventory those assets and maybe identify some more preservation priorities. So whether it means applying for further preservation restrictions or creating management plans, the reconnaissance plan is a great starting point, working with the Douglas Historical Commission, the Mass Historical Commission, applying for planning grants. It would kind of position the town in a great place for more state and federal preservation opportunities. Do you want to
Sure.
Okay.
So creating an agricultural commission, I know there's not a lot of farms in town currently, and it's mainly attributed to the soil quality and the fact that it's like sort of glacial till, making it like rough for growing new crops. But modern agricultural practices like have different ways of overcoming that barrier, and there are existing farms in town, and there is potential for new ones to come in, and so to have like a body to act as a liaison between farmers and the town committees and boards like is a sort of an important opportunity for like this sector of the economy that they face a lot of different, like tons of various issues that are kind of unique to them, and it would help like with like ensuring that the town actually does like maintain part of that rural character that is so heavily valued in town. So that was one of our like top action items.
Any thoughts on that? Do you think there's an appetite in the town for establishing that kind of commission?
There's some stuff going on.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go down that rabbit hole.
Nope.
There are a couple of citizens petition articles coming up at the fall town meeting, and one of them is associated with an agricultural commission. However, there's a big however. The bylaws are petition articles. The planning board's not holding a public hearing on them. We had a discussion at our last meeting, but there's controversy there because of the way these were presented and how they were worked on.
Correct.
And there wasn't really a public review and consideration of analysis of how the bylaws would conflict with other regulations and bylaws. And sure enough, we got an opinion from town council just yesterday on that. So, yeah.
Was that like, is it also like a right to farm bylaw?
It is. And I prepared the right to farm bylaw for the town of Rochester back in 2011. And it's similar to the state model in Rochester's, but they kind of selected and picked elements but left other stuff out. And also they are going against the state bylaw in terms of minimum acreage. They want to either eliminate it or greatly reduce it, so there's controversy with that. So that's going to be a dicey one coming up at town.
You can't really make it any less stringent than what the state
Right,
has.
that's the thing. You can make it stricter than state law, but not more lenient, and that's what the bylaw is attempting to do.
Because there are a lot of issues with that with like small farmers that are like, well, I only have like an acre, but it's still productive and it's still contributing.
Well, and that's the thing, and the thing is about this bylaw, and I've heard, we have a farmer on the planning board, and the farmers are not crazy about what's being proposed because they, have regulations they have to go by, and this bylaw would not make people abide by those. It would be, they use the term hobby farming, and people are like, well, wait a second, hobby farming, that's very casual.
The right to
that's
farm
not very formal. So
was originated for the commercial farmer.
Correct.
Where you have to show.
What right farm bylaws are usually is
correct.
They give people a heads up moving into town that like in Rochester, it's mainly cranberry bogs. And you may move in near a cranberry bog, so you may hear machinery start up early in the morning. You may, in other farms, you may have certain odors, or you may hear donkeys, or you may hear farm animals. So just be aware of that. And, like there was on the planning board in Rochester, there was a cranberry farmer on there, and he would be up all night monitoring the temperature of his bogs when it would start to have a heavy frost.
And this is their income. So
This is their income.
That was
they
their
have
right.
to do this, so they don't
Correct.
go by banker's hours. So that's the original intent of the right to farm bylaw, and there's a lot of sentiment that what's being proposed is not within the spirit of a right to farm bylaw.
And I don't want to go too over time, but right to farm, is this like different than like the right to grow food? Or is it like more associated with like selling food?
Different, because there's definition of what constitutes a farm according to the state.
Yeah.
It's to protect from like nuisance lawsuits.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you can have a garden and nothing
Correct.
you want to have.
Yeah, and at what point is it a farm? When you
And
sell
that's the other thing,
stuff?
the purposes of bylaw are
yes.
fear-mongering. They're telling people that if it doesn't pass, that the town's going to take away your chickens and things like that, and that's part of the problem, is there's a lot of misinformation out there.
That's what I heard.
The town's not going to take away your chickens. What are you going to do with the chickens? They're going to make me do it. John, go take everyone's chickens.
So John, is the consensus that, is there a place for a right to farm entity bylaw?
Yeah,
Is there a place for it if it's well-written?
Exactly, that's the point. If it's properly vetted, if town council and the planning board and the Board of Health have a chance to review it and make sure, because that's, again, I've brought about 24 different zoning bylaws before various communities in my career, and it's me as the petitioner. It's my responsibility to do outreach. When we did the town center bylaw in Stoughton over 2.5 years, I didn't wait for an invitation from the redevelopment authority or the Friends of Stoughton Center. I reached out to them and said, I want to be on your agenda to present this. I went before the select board about 6 times periodically over that time to give them updates. We did an entire downtown walk in February, where we walked the entire downtown and looked at all 300 and something parcels on a Friday. So it's on the petitioner to do that outreach, in my opinion, because that's your duty, is to go out and seek consensus and say, hey, if I want somebody to approve my bylaw, then I have to sell it. In other words, I have to tell them why it's a good idea.
And it's not just a matter of someone approving it. It has to be approved by the Attorney General.
Correct. And Stoughton had representative town meeting, 160 members. So I had to convince 100. I stood up there for an hour and a half for one article and answered questions, and it passed by 85%.
So what I'm hearing is they have not done their outreach.
They have not done their outreach, no.
Do you think that this is a reaction to the fact that there's another group that's trying to put, I don't know, I see them, I don't have any animals, but I see them talking about, what they're going to tell people what they can do. Is this a reaction to that?
It may be, I don't know.
Because I've been seeing the ones having the hearings on that.
I don't think that, I think that's part of it, but I think there's more to it, and I can just leave it at that. I don't want to get into speculation.
So voted down, it'd be a 2-year moratorium to reintroduce it?
I'm going to have to see about that, because it's a general bylaw, it's not a zoning bylaw.
Okay.
And that's the only thing, it requires simple majority, so if 101 people show up, 51 votes carries the day. It's not a 2/3.
But 51 days, sink it.
Correct. One vote either way can sink it or approve it.
But I think if an argument is intelligently made at town meeting that this is just not ready for prime time, this needs to be reviewed.
Yeah.
We can do better and maybe circle back.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's the argument I think would have to be made at town meeting.
Yeah.
If they were smart, they'd pull it before that moratorium sets in. Once it's voted on, you can't backtrack.
But they can't pull it. How can they pull it?
They can.
The people
The
that
petitioner
want
can
it.
pull it any
The
time.
people that want to put it up.
Right.
But the town people that run the town can't pull it.
I've never brought a zoning bylaw before a town meeting unless I'm confident.
The petitioner can.
Period.
Right.
I never take that chance.
It's on the warrant.
Right.
It's been approved to be done, and you can't say no.
right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the thing about citizen petitions that I'm not a big fan of, is they don't go through a public process. They automatically legally get put on the warrant, and they don't go through that vetting process with town council, planning board, and the public. So that's the one issue.
Yeah.
In many ways, it circumvents town.
It does. It does.
So instead of the discussion taking place in a public hearing, it's being
Done
a
at town
public
meeting.
meeting.
Correct.
Town meeting.
So it's a case of
So bring your camping.
educate, self-education on this one. Absolutely.
If it didn't pass, doesn't that bylaw then have to go to the Attorney General?
Yeah.
Yes, it does, and
90
there are
days.
certain elements that, again, hasn't been publicly circulated, but town council had some comments on that.
So what's your email again, John, so we can get you this street thing for next time?
It's J Charbonneau, CHARBONNEAU, at douglas-ma.gov.
Thank you.
So, do you have anything else you want to go over this evening?
I feel like at the next meeting, we can probably wrap up some.
Yeah, are we overtime?
Yeah. So can we do the same thing as we've done before, just wrap up this at the next meeting and then go on to the next chapter?
Yeah, the next chapter we'll discuss is economic development.
So Susan, could you come back to the beginning of our next meeting on the 15th of October?
I don't know if Gordon's going to be back or not.
Okay. So yeah, play that one by ear.
Thank you, that was great. And actually, it was all really interesting. And for me, especially some of the historic tidbits you pulled out. Much of it I hadn't heard. Now, what was some of your
The main one was the reconnaissance report, I think 2007.
Okay.
It was a really, like they did them on all the towns, or they did them in all the towns.
You notice what we do now?
Looks at like all the different. We haven't yet, officially.
Like to adjourn. Committee members here.
Thank you.
Second.
I was waiting for that.
That was a passive adjournment.
Next meeting, check with John.
I'm sorry, so we have a motion on the table to adjourn, made by Bob, seconded by Dan. Didn't you second that? Rob?
Rob. Bob's and Rob's carried
Bob
the
and
day
Rob.
today.
Motion, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Form of Bob's.
The ayes have it.
Right? Seriously.